I want to jump into a segment here, and I think we're going to call this is a new segment. I think we're going to call it Going Deeper with Wesley Sullivan. Is that what you want, Wesley?
Yes, that is the name for my segment.
And
I think
of course,
Lozano
did you
wants
say
that too?
Did you say sexment? It is of course the double list of entendres. So this segment, Wesley's got some questions for us here. We're going to start out, shoot for 3 maybe. Wesley's got 3 deep questions in different categories, and we're just going to try and talk about them real quick.
Going deeper
Going deeper.
with Wesley Sullivan.
Wesley. Oh, Wesley. Oh, Wesley.
Going deeper with Wesley Sullivan.
Okay, so this is something, the subject I noticed first when I first went up to university. I live in a community, it's mostly Caucasians, a few Latinos. When I went to university, there were a fair amount of black students. And, you see them in TV, but it's really the first interaction I had with them outside of a few trips. But the question is, and this really boggles my mind, why are the palms of black people's hands much lighter in color?
Oh my god.
I'm serious. Look at their hands. All right.
You may have to repeat the question because I didn't get any of that.
Why are the palms of black people's hands much lighter in color than the rest of them?
When I
They
was
go
in
from-
grade school, there was a joke that it was because God had put their hands against the wall when he spray painted
I'm
them.
so happy I didn't have to be the one to tell that joke.
Oh man.
They go from like molasses to like a pink cupcake on their palm. It's crazy.
Here's the reason why I love Wesley's question so much. Is because I've wondered that all my life, but I've never had the guts to ask it.
So, any ideas, like, as far as, why do you think melanin in the skin does that?
I think we're going to have to ask G's on this one.
I don't know, it's the same for Hispanics. I think your melanin is just concentrated in areas of your skin that are exposed to the sun more.
Oh, okay. I see.
There's got to be genetics involved, right? I would think there has to be genetics.
Well, any soft tissue tends to be a lighter color on pretty much people of almost any race.
Well, isn't all of the skin just soft tissue?
Well, I mean, like the more sensitive areas.
I do know some stuff about it. I think it has to do with...
Vaginas are pink. Vaginas are pink. They just are.
Okay, well, we went there.
Well, part of it is also keratin cells, keratinocytes, I think. I have some medical training, so I know a bit about this, but honestly, anatomy and physiology was never really my strong suit. I mostly did well with the actual medicine part. But, I think it has to do with the fact that, kind of like what you were saying, like your melanin will be concentrated more in the areas that are traditionally exposed to the sun, and also you're bending the skin of your hand inward a lot, which moves around things like the keratin, which are, like how you get, keratin is kind of like callus material. Like it's, what else would be keratin? The things that scab up, like when you get blisters. So your palms develop that a lot, and it does not hold melanin as well, or melasomes. I gotta research this to really tell you for sure. Don't use me as the science source on this one.
So what about dark Hispanic people? Are their palms whiter?
Even white people are, actually. If you look at your hand, your palms are not the exact same color as the outside of your hand. And even me, I'm kind of an olive-skinned Italian guy, and my hands look a lot more pink and white person-ish than the back of my hand, which is more olive. And in the summer, I get super tanned, and my palms don't get tanned, right? So
Are we ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hold on to your butts.
Oh Jesus.
So, I've always wondered, does alcohol taste good, or is it only consumed for its effects? I've never tasted it, but I've smelt it on people. Like the guys in my dorm would come home drunk and they'd like throw up, or you just smell it on their clothes, and it smells awful to me. But I'm just curious. Do people like it for the taste or just its effects?
The short answer is acquired taste. So I wouldn't say really any type of alcohol tastes good if you're like a 7-year-old and you take a sip of it. But as you drink more and like start trying out different types of drinks, like different cocktails, different types of beer, different liquors, you kind of develop your own taste for what you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started drinking beer at about 26 or 27, and I'd never really done any drinking before.
Oh my.
And the first one, it was my brother-in-law at the time tried to introduce me to craft beer because he said it's not like Budweiser, it's different, it's got flavor. And so I tried some light stuff, and the first one I tried was apricot. I super hated it, and then he took me out to a kind of a pub, and we started playing pool, and I got another light one. Something was different, and I actually liked that one, and it grew on me. And then all of a sudden, because I'm Mr. Variety, I like to try different things. Craft beer was my world because there's just an endless assortment to try. And I got, as I developed, I got darker and darker. But at the time,
Except
I
for
hated.
your palms.
That's right.
That's what's called a callback.
I didn't know about IPAs or pale ales or what the difference was, or ambers or lagers. And so I just started trying stuff and learning and reading about it. And I did some darker ones at the time. Could not get into them. They were so strong. But then as I worked at it and tried different flavors, now dark beer and IPAs and things are my preference, and I almost don't even like the light beers anymore.
Do you go as far as like a stout?
Oh yeah. Stouts are my favorite.
I can maybe on like St. Patrick's Day or something, I'll have a stout, like if I'm at like an Irish pub that has like good craft beer, but like I tend to kind of stick to like heavy bisons and lagers. I guess I'm kind of a pussy in that sense. I try not to get too adventurous with beers. I really, really like beer though. I tend to go for the simpler stuff.
It was the same with wine. I started out with white, couldn't get into it, but then when I got some of those terrible like candy wines, like sweet sugar water juice
Like
wines.
Zinfandel.
Yep, Moscato, and
That's my
it got
shit
me
right
in.
there, man.
It got me through the door, and then I started doing red wines, and now I almost don't even like white wines anymore.
I've always preferred reds, like from the hop.
So I would say in answer to Wesley's question, I don't think it's, well, because I used to be intrigued by vodka, but I wouldn't say that I necessarily enjoyed the flavor. I just thought it was interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's the alcohol flavor so much as what they put into it and what they do to it.
Okay. I see.
There's so much out there. There's a world of difference between a Budweiser and a stout, or a white wine and a whiskey. They're just not even in the same like world.
Okay.
It's like all these things are made around alcohol to make it taste good. And then, of course, you want the effects of alcohol, but straight alcohol is impossible to drink unless you're a fucking moonshiner or something.
Has anybody tried that alcohol powder?
That sounds like a horrible idea.
That sounds like cocaine.
No, like I read about this a few years ago, that there's like some sort of alcohol powder, and it gets you fucked up, and you can like put it in anything, and like it's pretty crazy, but I guess nobody knows about it. So
my only experience with a powdered drink and alcohol was when I was about 22 or so, and I was dating a girl who wanted to drink with two of her friends at my house and two of my buddies. So we were like, all right, this is going to be a good time. So we go to the grocery store, and she's like, "Oh, what am I gonna get for mix? Like, I have a big bottle of vodka. I just don't know what I'm gonna get for mix." I'm just like, get whatever you want." So like, I go off and I get the stuff because I was gonna cook dinner. So I bought the stuff for the food, and she went off and got what I thought was going to be juice or something, and what she ended up picking up was just some packs of Kool-Aid. This girl just poured Kool-Aid powder into straight vodka that night and drank it. And this was Canadian winter. Like, it was my parents' house too at the time. I think my parents were gone though at the time because they did not bear witness to any of this. At one point, she started freaking out. Said that
I can't find my fresh 2-gram one, but I got the 1-gram one.
Inget, you're the worst.
What?
And then
I'm remuting you.
All right, so she just said at a random point in the night she got totally shit-faced and said, "I want to go home." Walked outside in pajama bottoms and one of my t-shirts barefoot in like waist-high snow. Like, it was a fucking snowy as fuck day. And walked all the way down the street. And me and my buddy Ryan, who I don't think is in the meme group, but he's in the CLS group, had to chase her down the street and carry her back to the house. We eventually like got her up to my bed. I kind of like tried to calm her down, like warm her up, got her under the covers, and then she eventually kind of came to, and then just attacked me, like started clawing at my face and stuff, like drew blood. It was like she seriously beat me up. And then the next day, I had to go work at the Canadian equivalent of GameStop, and my manager just looks at me. He's just like, "Did you get attacked by like a cheetah? Like, what the hell happened to you? Like, you've got cuts all over your face." I'm like, "Christina got really drunk last night," and then he's like, "Did she beat you up?" And I'm like, "I'd like to say no, but I mean, technically, yeah, she did."
This story is actually about abducting a girl and bringing her back to your house.
Oh, believe me, it was not.
All right, Wesley, next question.
Okay, well, I have a few more, not just the 3, but all right. Here's the thing, everyone talks about send Bob's and Vagine, but you also see here. Follow with me. You always see like these women in the group are posting pictures of themselves, and everyone's commenting on their ass. And I just don't get the obsession. What is so great about the ass? There are far more attractive parts on a woman.
I beg to differ.
Yeah, I mean, there's some beautiful asses out there.
But what's appealing about it? What?
Okay.
There's no reason biologically why.
Yeah, well, there is. Biologically, there is. That's an easy one.
You do know that there's more than one sexual position, right, Wesley?
Well, no, but from like a biological, like if you want to talk about how we're hardwired as animals, like a large hip area, which generally will extend to the ass, is generally like indicative of being able to bear children. So there is
blah 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 evolution.
There's
I'm
a
just
genetic thing in us.
Just tell us what your kinks are.
That's the age. That's like everybody goes to that. Well, men are attracted to this because
How fucked
women
would it be
are...
if my kink was feet? It's not, but I've only got one of them.
I get that maybe evolution plays a part of like in biology and stuff, and having preserving your line as far as what guys are attracted to. It's just funny to me because I've never looked at a woman and thought, "Damn, I'll bet she could have babies."
Not that you know of. I'm saying, like, he said there's no biological reason why, and I'm saying, well, that's not true at all. There is one. It's just probably not the one that most of us are thinking about when we're looking at an ass.
Carl, you're such a Jordan Peterson sometimes.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, Mark. I hadn't thought of, the hips. Having birthing hips makes sense, but everyone always talks about her, a woman's ass. So thank you for clarifying that.
It's not one of my things. When we actually had a poll in the group not too long ago, was like boobs versus asses, and I actually voted boobs.
Yeah, because that's the
poll.
correct answer.
I must be hardwired to want a woman that can nurse well.
I mean, yeah, you probably are.
All right, you got another question, Wesley?
Well, this is kind of like my first one.
Let's keep
I'm
going.
afraid to ask this like to somebody black that I know.
So why do black people have white palms is okay, but this one is gonna cross the line. This one is gonna be a doozy.
Oh
I
god.
don't know. So, do black people get sunburned, and how can they tell?
Yes.
Yes, and they can tell because it hurts.
But they have nothing. It's not fair. It's
you were-
dark.
You are not immune to ultraviolet radiation if you're black. You're more resistant to it because the melatonin protects you the way sunscreen protects us. But yes, you can still get sunburned if you're black. It just will take a lot longer.
Okay.
Oh man.
I've only had sunburn twice in my life, and I'm not even that dark. And I've been to like Hawaii, Puerto Rico.
If you're listening, podcast listeners, if you're on Podbean, you should jump on YouTube because I'm gonna make a note and put a picture of myself with the worst sunburn I've ever got right here in the video because it was a doozy. Okay, so the worst sunburn I've ever had. I went to what was it? It was a I've been to a few events to do video footage to do filming, but I think this one was like a motocross race, and it was kind of overcast. So I didn't think to put on any sunscreen or anything, and it was like the spring, so I'd gone all winter without sun, and I'm crazy white anyway, and so I was out there for hours, and I just got absolutely roasted, and it was so bad. It wasn't that event; it was a different event. I just remembered because it was last year when I was in Tri-Cities, but it was so bad that I actually stayed indoors for the next 2 days because my face had actually swollen. And my whole nose was like it was blocking part of my eyes because it was all swelled up the bridge of my nose.
Oh man.
It was brutal, and of course the peeling was like it was like a lizard coming out of its skin.
Yeah, I don't burn very often. 2 years ago, though, my sister got married in Costa Rica, and I basically never get burned in Canada. Like, I mean, I'm generally, even when I'm in the field, I'm wearing my combats, so I'm not, like, exposed to the sun that much and get burned, so I don't really think about it. But I rented a motorcycle and went out for, like, maybe like a 6-hour or so ride with, like, a tank top on in the Costa Rican sun, and let's just say I didn't think it through. I was a lobster by the time I got back. Kind of ruined the rest of my trip.
When I was in Scouts, I did Scouts, and we'd go on camping trips. The first trip I ever went on, I brought no sunblock, and I'm pale as hell. And it was a week-long trip, and I got burnt on the first day. And when I went to wash my face the next morning, it just burnt so bad, and it was hell. And so every trip after that, I would take tons of sunscreen and sometimes get what was it called? Have you seen that like white paste that sometimes people will put on their nose? It's got some sort of
the zinc oxide.
Yeah, zinc. I would use that occasionally, and then wear like a wide brimmed hat and long sleeves because it was just it was bad.
So I got a question for you, Mark. Have you ever been out on a really sunny day and like you accidentally touch your one leg with your prosthetic and burn yourself because the prosthetic's been too hot?
No, I generally wear like knee socks on my left foot and this like kind of McDavid like volleyball knee pad thing.
Okay.
And so like my left leg is very rarely bare. And also, I'm usually, I mean, especially, like, I haven't really had prosthetic out when it's been really hot very much. And not a lot of metal is really exposed. It's just kind of the top of the actual foot right below the socket. But for the most part, if anything touches, it'd be the socket touching, which is carbon that doesn't really retain that much heat.
Because I grew up in South Carolina, and there have been times where I've, like, hopped in the car without looking where the seatbelt is, and the
Yeah,
exposed
yeah.
metal
That-
part of the
that happens
seatbelt
here,
touches
too.
my bare skin, and I, just burn myself alive in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I'll be moving around a lot better this summer than I was last summer, so maybe it'll happen. I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Chris, he lives in Canada. They don't have any hot days.
Oh, yeah, we do. It gets fucking
Yeah, they do.
boiling in
Yep.
Ontario during the summer.
How hot?
Again, I speak in Celsius, but like usually 33, 34. That's generally when it's like crazy hot. But like, I mean, I'd say on a normal day in like the summer, like 28 is probably where it is.
28.
So that
Look
is...
it up in Fahrenheit. I don't know how to translate that in my head.
I just heard the keyboard going.
93 degrees.
That's pretty hot.
That's decent.
Yeah, and Ontario is humid too. It's a lot nicer if you're in like BC. It's a little more of a dry heat.
We get 105 here in Moses Lake is usually the hot point.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
We get to like 120 here.
Yeah.
In the
West-
height of summer.
Wesley,
Yeah.
that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's god awful.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. It's,
Chicago gets pretty hot too, but it's the humidity that kills us here. It's a fucking
Oh.
swamp.
I would take dry heat over wet heat any day. I
Yeah,
can't
humidity
stand humidity.
sucks.
Yeah,
So we
even
got
in
Is
the
that-
cold, like
Yeah.
dry cold is way better than any sort of wet cold.
Wesley, was that another double entendre?
Oh my lord.
What's your next question?
Okay, so this is the last one. And so I think this is probably like an outdated term. I'm not sure, but you hear it like in the movies and stuff. But you've heard of people talking about, oh, I got to first base, second base, what have you. What is that? Like, what are the levels they're talking about as in terms of how far they became intimate?
Right.
There's a lot of controversy about third base.
Yeah.
Generally, though, everyone agrees on home. Most people agree on first and second. Third, though, is it's a pretty big gray area.
So, Mark, what are your first and seconds?
I would say first is kissing, like tongue kiss, like a full-out romantic kiss, none of this peck on the cheek shit. Second is anything involving breasts. My rule for third is anything involving genitals at all, except
Okay.
for full-on sex, and obviously home is sex.
Okay, so things are evolving. Do you think we're going to need some new analogies? Because there's a lot more than sex.
Where does picking fit in this baseball?
Yeah, soon it's gonna, evolve from baseball and go to cricket, to where there's like 120 different rules.
Do you guys ever see
It
Clone
lasts 4
High?
days long.
Clone High, they had the whole joke that was first and a half base, where it's under the shirt but over the bra.
Oh. Well, yeah,
What's a foul ball?
Ask Lozano.
Premature ejaculation.
Not
I don't
performing.
know.
Yeah, I guess so. Premature ejaculation makes more sense.
what would be a strikeout?
If she tells you to get out.
that
If
happens
she
at
tells
the
you
bar.
to leave the premises and go home.
Your Uber's here.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. What is cucking like pinch hitting?
And getting a DH to come in.
I mean, this analogy can only go so far before it just gets convoluted.
The 7th inning stretch.
Sometimes you need those. Need to drink some water, maybe like Capri Sun or something, and then rally and get back in there.
It's very important to hydrate.
If she's like a lot lizard, all the truckers are counting their RBIs and stuff. So a RBI would be like maybe like a
I don't even wanna
wingman.
think about what an RBI is in this context.
It's like a wingman that gets his buddy scores. His buddy scores because of him.
The grand slams when you get 3 of your homies pussy.